Welcome back to Publishing Power. My name is Joellen, and I am here again today for the 38 story elements with Christina Stanley from Fictionary. Welcome, Christina.
Good morning, Joellen. So we are moving right along. Last week we covered smell as part of the setting story elements. Mm-hmm. We all know there's 38 Fictionary story elements, so we're I don't know what number we're through, but we're getting there. And today we're going to cover using sound to make the reader hear what your character's hearing.
That's great. And so we're going to talk about the sounds and how we use them in every single scene of our writing, not just the general, but you're making sure you're including all of those senses again and again and again. So I'm going to let you start by telling us how can we make our scene better by using sound in our writing.
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing is sound creates atmosphere. And it does it really quickly. So let's look at, Jaws. Dun, 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 dun. We all know that sound, right? Okay, I'm going to be eaten. And I was terrified when I was, young teenager when that came out to swim in my lake because I could hear that sound like there's a shark in the lake. But there's certainly atmosphere, right? So it's a little harder in a book to do it than a movie where obviously you're really hearing it. But even when you're writing your novel, you can still use sound to add a layer of depth to your description, and it's called Audible Imagery. Mm-hmm. You can show locations with sound, so instead of telling the reader where a character is, you could say, raindrops pummeling pavement will tell your reader that the character is outside, perhaps in an urban setting, but you get a much better feel just by the sound without saying they're standing on pavement, right? And everybody can feel raindrops hitting pavement. And so you not only hear it, you get a feeling of wet feet and uncomfort and that kind of thing. Let's talk a little bit about, when do you want to use sound? So sound is great at the beginning of a scene. You can use it to anchor location. Mm-hmm. And that's a helpful way without saying my reader is standing outside on the pavement. You can give a nice little example. Mm-hmm. You can use it when something is important to a character. Now, I always go back to dogs. So a dog trainer is going to be tuned into hearing barking. And so that'll be a sound that they notice, right? Where a cat person might not notice a dog barking. Or maybe they find it really irritating where a dog trainer is intrigued by it because they want to understand it. So it can tell you a lot about your character just by what sounds they pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. And what it stimulates in their mind. And if you can connect those two, it lets you know the character a little deeper.
And there it is, right back to let's link the story elements. So a sound can trigger a flashback. It can trigger backstory. It can trigger an emotional reaction. It can, help or hinder the point of view character getting their goal because now they're off on a different track. It can really show emotion. So if you think of a character hiding in an empty building and the power's off and the villain's looking for them, mm-hmm. that character is going to be listening for any noise that helps them determine where the villain is. They're going to tune out everything else, and that's their main focus. And then here comes the twist. They hear something they don't expect. Right? So right there, you're adding pacing, you're speeding it up by having the character really in tune to what they're hearing or not hearing.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Okay. So we know how to enhance it. We know how important sound is. As you're talking about this, I just listened to this podcast the other day about the most known sound in the world, especially after Corona, is the dum. And you know what I'm talking about as soon as I say it. I don't have to say it, da-dong, and we go,
I totally do, yep.
Binging. And there was a whole podcast about how it was created, what it's made from. But that's a perfect example of sound and how it stimulates a feeling, a direct reaction, an emotion. It's like, Pavlov. We don't start drooling, but we, whatever it may be. So
absolutely.
What are the pitfalls? How do we connect this? How do we make sure we're doing da-dong, it's really popular and positive to our characters versus something that may actually create a problem for the writer and reader?
And that's a great lead in because it's such a short sound.
Oh,
right?
So
it's just
short.
there. Uh-huh. So filtering is a common mistake that happens with sound. And what it means is you're adding extra words around the sound. So going back to my dog example, She heard the dog bark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's long. Versus the dog barked. Short. We know, so we're in this character's point of view, we know she heard it because you put it in the scene, the dog barked. And so you can shorten it right down, pick up the pacing. The reader is going to feel like they heard the dog bark versus she heard the dog bark.
Right.
And the other thing that helps with, of course, is pacing, because now it's much faster. You're just rolling through and you're part of the scene, and so it feels much faster. I want to make the same comment that I made with sound or smell, is that the sound has to be familiar to the reader. So if you're describing something really unique, you need to make sure you do add extra words for what that sound is, because you really don't want your reader to have to look it up. And it's very easy to do on the Kindle. You can click let me read this and get interested in something else because you're learning a new word and you don't know what that sound is.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. It's true. It's too easy to be drawn away, and it's making sure that you give everything that's necessary there, but it actually adds without overloading, can we say? Because quite often when we're editing, we see that there's just too much description. And if it takes that much to describe it, can you just change it? Can you just do it better? So again, that's very much part of it. So we're going to go through all of our scenes as we do every week. And what are we going to do today about the sound as one of our senses? And of course, we can do sight, sound, smell, and all those at the same time. But what's specific to sound?
So specific to sound, I'm just going to back up to what you said of just do it better, right? It seems so simple, just do it better. But how do you do it better? So when you're reviewing your sound, so one, on a scene by scene edit, you're going to keep track of all your sounds that you're using. And either you're just marking your used sound or you're keeping track of specific sounds. But just do it better. When you're keeping track of it, think about, did you use variety in your sound? Right? So you're writing a book about dog training. Are you just only using barking? There's so many other sounds a dog makes that, you need to look, is there variety? And also that when you use a sound, think about, are there different words you can use for that sound so that it's not repetitive, you keep it interesting. Can you use an active sound versus a passive sound? And so study your sounds and think about, what do you want the reader to experience and how quickly can you make them experience it?
Good. So it's always about, it's about reader's impact, reader experience. We have UX now, we can say RX, our reader's experience, and making sure that it's there. Very nice. Very nice. So again, we're going through all the senses and how they're being used in these scenes as part of the 38 story elements of self-editing and editing as professionals that we both do here. And we just want to thank you all for joining us today. And if you like this, share it with one of your friends so that we can all become better writers in the world. Thanks for joining us again today, Christina.
Thanks, Joellen. Talk to you soon.